It's 11 o'clock and time for Ask Pastor Deb with Pastor Deborah Watlington House here on WOSDRadio.com. Let her story about recovery inspire you. And of course, you're welcome to ask questions from this woman of God. And now it's time to Ask Pastor Deb.
Good morning and welcome to Ask Pastor Deb. I am Pastor Deborah Watlington House, your host for the hour. I've been a pastor for 20 years, spreading the gospel in a unique and radical way. I am a peer recovery coach specialist and the worship coordinator at Free Worship Center. This show allows you to ask questions about different topics, and I provide answers using a variety of resources and techniques. I invite you to sit back and enjoy the show. Today's topic is National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month and National Family Caregivers Month. And today we're going to go over the Caregivers Bill of Rights. So I'm sending a big shout out to all of my podcast partners and to Al Greer, the owner of WOSD Radio and AG Entertainment, for all your love and support you give me on my caregiver journey. November marks the beginning of National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month and National Family Caregivers Month. More than 16 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Alzheimer's is not normal aging. It's a disease of the brain that causes problems with memory, thinking, and behavior. And today, we're going to focus on taking care of the caregiver. Last week's show was dedicated to my mom, Earlene Watlington, who passed October 11, 2019, as a result of dementia, Alzheimer's. And now we're going to honor caregivers all across the world who take care of loved ones, which we call LOs, who have Alzheimer's disease and many other diseases. This Caregiver Bill of Rights can be utilized by anyone who cares for someone. I'm just honoring the caregivers of Alzheimer's disease or other dementias because it is the closest to my heart. Have you ever heard of the Caregivers Bill of Rights? The Caregiver Bill of Rights was originally crafted by Jo Horn in her 1985 book, Caregiving, Helping an Aging Loved One. This essential rights of all caregivers have been around for 30 plus years. These rights, written and dedicated decades ago, are even more relevant today as the demand for caregivers increases since people are living longer. Today, as I read and discuss the list, ask yourself, are you actively exercising any of these rights now? Or do you need to start? So I'm asking you to take notes and share with your friends and your loved ones. So we're going to discuss the Caregivers Bill of Rights. I'm going to list all of them or talk about all of them. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that I did, some of the bills of rights that I really, took advantage of, and the other ones I kind of pushed to the back burner because of the way I was taught to be a caregiver, my understanding of what caregivers were supposed to do. And so let's start with the first one. It says, I have the right to take care of myself. This is not an act of selfishness. It will give me the capability of taking better care of my relative. Again, it says, I have the right to take care of myself. This is not an act of selfishness. it will give me the capability of taking better care of my relative. Man, that's a good one. And I see why they made that number one. I have the right. There it is right there. You have a right to take care of yourself first. You have the right to take care of yourself. This is not an act of selfishness. Some people think that this caregiver journey that I just got off of, the caregiver journey of taking care of my father, taking care of my brother twice, and then taking care of my mother, was something that without like a no-brainer. That's your responsibility, responsibility, because those were your family members. And so with that, I get it. And yes, it is my responsibility, but it's also something that I wanted to do. And so even because I was the sole caregiver most of the time, or I'll call it the primary caregiver, it still didn't mean that I had to do it by myself. But I had the right to take care of myself. And sometimes when I did the things that I wanted to do that I thought was good for me to do, I got a lot of flack. I got a lot of, how you think you're supposed to take a vacation and you got to take care of your mama, or you got to take care of your brother. And I had other family members that were equally responsible for the help of taking care of our loved ones. It goes on to say that the second right is I have the right to seek help from others, even though my relatives may object. So fortunately, my parents, my mother, my father, or even my brother did not object for anyone else to come alongside and help. Now, my father might have been a little particular about who he wanted to help take care of him, but my brother and my mother, they didn't. They welcomed anyone that wanted to come alongside to help me provide the care that they both needed. Okay? And so it's my right to seek help from others, even though my relatives may object. I recognize the limits of my own endurance and strength. Bingo! There it is right there. And even though I did recognize my endurance for my own ability, or recognize my limits of my own endurance and strength, guess what? I kept going. I kept going because I didn't get the help that I needed from others. I didn't get it. The next right is I have the right to maintain facets of my own life that do not include the person I care for, just as I would if he or she were healthy. I know that I do everything that I reasonably can for this person, and I have the right to do some things just for myself. Wow, that one hit home. Because I do, and I did have the right to do some things for myself, but let's just take my mom. I had to include my mother in everything I did because she needed that type of help. I had to assist her when she woke up, getting dressed and doing her daily activities for just living. She didn't even understand how to brush her teeth anymore, what the towel was for, to wash her face, to bathe, to shower. As a matter of fact, she was even frightened of the shower. She always thought she was going to drown in the shower. Yeah, now I can laugh about it, but it was so frustrating when we were starting our day. And one time I can remember saying to myself, you know what? You're going to rent yourself a hotel room so that when you wake up, you can just take care of yourself. You know what? That never happened for me until I got actually sick. And I had to be away from my mother for 5 days to get my own self together, And so that was the only time that I got a break from that. And then I went right back into caring for her when I received the care that I needed. But then I was able to put her in a nursing home after I just couldn't handle it anymore. But even with the nursing home, I was sometimes racing to get there when she woke up in the morning to make sure that they were properly taking care of her. So I had the right to maintain my own life, but I just didn't do it. I didn't do it because I didn't understand how healthy that was for me. The next right, I have a right to get angry, be depressed, and express other difficult feelings occasionally. I have a right to do that occasionally. I have a right to get angry. I have a right to feel depressed, not stay depressed, but feel depressed. That's my right. But I dealt with it a little bit differently. I tried not to get angry, and I tried not to be depressed. Even though I tried my best not to be, because I knew that if I got depressed, then those were other issues that I had to deal with. And guess what? I got depressed, but I pushed my issues to the back burner so that I can keep all my focus on caring for my loved one. Here's another one. I have the right to reject any attempts by my relative, either conscious or unconscious, to manipulate me through guilt and or depression. Wow. Fortunate enough, I didn't have to go through too much of that type of manipulation from my family members. Now, my father was good, but he did it in such a cute way that you just have to laugh and be like, oh, really, Daddy? Are you really trying to punk me like that? And my brother had moments of manipulation because he wanted things to be the way he wanted them to be. He wanted to eat, he wanted to swallow, he wanted to do all these things. And when he actually couldn't do those things, he give me this little look like, well, you just need to go ahead on because I don't need you because you're not giving me what I need. And my sweet mother, she never tried to manipulate me. She just wanted things to be the way she felt that they needed to be in order to survive that awful disease that she had. Here's another one. I have the right to receive consideration, affection, forgiveness, and acceptance from my loved one for what I do, for as long as I offer these qualities in return. This one is amazing. You have the right to receive considerations. Yes, consideration, affection, forgiveness, and acceptance from the loved one for what I do. Isn't that amazing? And I never really even got into any of that consideration, affection. I knew that my loved ones were so sick that was the furthest thing from my mind. I could care less, really, about how they treated me or how they felt. My concern was to make sure that they were comfortable and to make sure that they had everything they need. And I did everything for them. I didn't even take in consideration any of these things of, whether it was my right or not. I just wanted to make sure that my person was comfortable and to make sure that they were living their best life while they were living. Some of them, I had to prepare them for death. And even through that, I wanted to make sure that they were just doing what it took to understand the dying process. It was hard for them, and it certainly was hard for me. But I did have that right to receive consideration and affection from them. Now, I got that from my parents, and I got that from my brother. But it was such a hardcore type affectionate moment that we shared because we kind of knew that the time was coming for them to go to glory, as I call it. And it was kind of hard for us to let go of each other. And I felt that as a caregiver, if I kept on caring for them and if I kept on taking care of them, it would be so much easier for me to understand what we both were going through. Here's another right. I have the right to take pride in what I am accomplishing and to applaud the courage it has sometimes taken to meet the needs of my relative. Wow. I had that right to take pride in what I am accomplishing Isn't that amazing?